All righty, everybody. What's going on? Thanks so much for coming out tonight to our first episode of the new show. So we used to have a show with Herman Lutman called Board Gaming with Herm, but we just couldn't get our schedules to work out. I was gone, he was gone, and back and forth and all this. So we basically ended up just putting that show on hold and recreating a new show called The Inside Scoop on Board Gaming.
Heavily.
There you go. And so in that case, we're going to be having all kinds of special guests to come in and talk about board gaming. And for our first episode, we got the one, the only, the lower, slower board gamer.
How's it going, guys?
Good to see you, Chris. How you been? You hanging in there?
I'm doing well, IDJ. I really am. Getting games, playing games in the middle of a week of staycation. So I've been board gaming it up like crazy.
Nice.
Yep.
I saw you were playing the other day and got your handed to you in a little game. The D&D one, Waterdeep.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
saw you didn't do very good, so now I'm ready to take a crack at you because I think
I'll tell you what, my son, he doesn't pull himself away from the Xbox for too many board games, and I've got 3 or 4 that I've gotten to where he knows how to play, and he'll deign himself to play them with me, but he just had the secret roll and those points. And when he said how much per building he said that you could see my face. It was the math didn't add up. I knew I lost a game.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
167 points, and I lost the game.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
And
so Mike
had
Anthony's
fun
in the house. How you doing, Mike? Good to see you, my friend. And Jeffrey's here as well. Good to see
Jeffrey,
you.
Glad you can make it.
Yeah, I appreciate everyone coming out to talk some board gaming, talking about all kinds of fun stuff. So, you've had a week off, or well, you're in the middle of your week off. You've been playing a lot of games. So, what have you been playing recently? I've been playing. This way. I played some Gandhi, and I've been playing some Marvel Champions, a game I hardly ever get the chance to play, but finally got a chance to pull it back out.
I saw that and enjoyed it.
And it's one of those games. It's good. It's got a lot of expansions, which we're going to talk about later. So
yes, we are.
So what have you been? What's your games? What have you been playing?
Well, this week primarily, my brother Ron, co-host of the channel whenever he's on it, he's co-host de facto. He came down Tuesday, spent the morning and early afternoon, and we marathoned 6 games of Wingspan.
Wow, 6 in a row.
I'll tell you what, who knew a game about birds? So far, I've got about 115 plays so far this year.
Ooh, wow.
The Automa Stonemeyer games, their Automa system is great.
You're gonna have to buy a new game. You're wearing it out.
No. I'll take the creases. And today in the mail, a new game showed up that I intend to get a lot of mileage with. I got Azul.
Nice.
I got Azul. It's a tile laying game. Anybody who's been watching board game stuff, they know generally how it plays. And I'm going to get a couple of videos up on the channel to show it off, show the rules, show the gameplay. But it's got a dominoes vibe. Even the tiles, they're the same shape as maybe half a domino, sound like them clacking together. And there's a lot of strategy involved to score well. So I'm looking forward to showing that off. I've already played it 5 times today. It's a 2 to 4 player game, but there are solo variants on Board Game Geek. So I went and picked one and tried it, and there's a bunch of different ways to play it. So I'm going to go through them all.
So it is really good to talk with you because, as you know, and a lot of our viewers probably know, I run a war game show every Saturday at 4:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time right here on my channel.
Enablers.com.
Right? Little plug for myself in there. And one of the things we talk about constantly on my show and the War Room, is how wargaming, when we play a game, we play it we play a scenario, and then we put it away, and we get on another one. We don't ever really like get a game out, play a scenario, and then set up a different scenario, and set up a different scenario.
Right.
And I'm the oddball in the group from Rough Swordsman and Tony's Board Life. I'm the oddball because I am the crossover guy. I play the board games, I play the war games, I play everything. Tony and Ruff, they play a little bit, but mostly they focus on war games. So that I come from the perspective of I play both board games, war games, sports games, any kind of games. And I have that perspective from everything. And when you say you played a game 5 times in one day, that never happens in a war game. Never where you
honestly, the games take a lot longer to play than Azul does. The games take a lot longer to play than Wingspan does. And there are board games that last 2, 3. If you're playing TI4, Twilight Imperium 4, 7 hours.
Right. Well, that's true. That is true.
Yeah.
That is true. Oh, geez, in the house. Original Ragnar, Devin. Yes.
What's going on, man?
Did you see Devin? For those of you who don't know, Devin's world famous now. He's got his mug on the front of his brand new game.
He's got his own game cover.
He does. Wow.
Yes, he does. Yeah, I saw him and Tony on the other night. Yep, that was cool.
Yeah,
it was.
They did a little playthrough of one of the scenarios, so that was a lot of fun to show off and get to see those two. Except for Tony, I swear to God, he's going to drive me insane. He's going to give me. I'm going to have a hemorrhage because I kept telling him it's coming down to the wire. You need to assault this guy so he doesn't come into your building hex and take it from you.
Russians hiding in the grass, man. He
didn't listen to me. And OG, and the last moved his guy in there, meleeed him, killed the enemy, and ended up winning the scenario.
That's why my picture's on the game box, peoples.
That's right. That's right. So maybe maybe they'll look for a counter for us. We can be like one of the leaders. OG, get on that. Talk to David and say, hey, tell David that we need to have our.
I could be Churchill.
we need to have our faces on a counter. That would be awesome. Let alone the face of on the game box. That would be super cool, right?
I have no such worries about that. I'm not worried about the game box.
Played Strike Force 1 a dozen times a day. It's just board gaming tends to be a much how do I put
more
it?
Accessible?
Not necessarily accessible, but as you mentioned, they sit the scenarios and the playthroughs. I mean, you can play a game in like 15, 20 minutes, depending on the game.
There are a lot of games that are easier to table.
For board games or for war games, it's just they're a lot more complex and they usually last a lot longer. So they just don't have the, unless you have the time, it's hard to get multiple playthroughs of an actual game.
And a lot more goes into
we might have to be able to work something out there. All right. That's what we're talking about.
Bring it.
It's great when we, because I played, as you know, we played Marvel Champions last night here on the channel.
Yeah.
And I played three scenarios. We tried a scenario, we lost, played the same scenario, lost again, changed the scenario, and I lost again. So I lost 3 times last night.
Lost 3 times in an hour and a half. Not too shabby.
Oh, wait, that's not true.
No, you won the
first
one.
The first one. That's right.
Yeah.
I did win the first one.
Yep.
Then we changed the scenario.
Rhino.
I was like, oh, this is too easy. We need to make it a little more difficult.
Let's bring in Rhino. Everyone's
you were in the chat saying, oh yeah, watch how
lulling you into a false sense of security.
Yeah, false sense of security. And sure enough, next time I lost and it wasn't very nice. And then the next time I lost again, and I'm like, wow, okay.
You lasted long.
It's fun. You'd be able to get three scenarios in one sit down. So,
It is.
I mean,
Yep.
because one of the things we talk about on the War Room, and this is crossovers into board gaming in general, is when you get a game, there's usually, multiple scenarios, there's multiple maps, there's multiple characters, and blah blah blah. And really, most games going to take several, 2, 3, 4, 10 playthroughs to actually become proficient with the game and understand the rules of the game and everything. And while it's much easier to do in regular board gaming than wargaming, I think that's one of the problems with, and why wargaming isn't as popular as it
with
would be.
anything in life, the more you do it and the more you'll be able to get technically proficient in doing something, the less that the technical part is in your face and interrupts you and allows the artistic part of what you're doing to flow and makes it much more enjoyable.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
As with anything.
You see, I have Gandhi here because I started Gandhi as well. And you can see I actually have it still set up on the table. And I played basically 2 or 2.5 hours, somewhere around there. And we made it through to the first campaign card. And there's 4 campaign cards. So basically I played through a fourth of the game and it cost 2 to 2.5 hours. So you figure this game is going to take 8 to 10 hours to play this scenario. So if I wanted to really delve into this game and play the multiple scenarios, play them several times, you're talking 20, 30, 40 hours worth of gameplay to do that.
It's a commitment to learn a game that is that in-depth. It really is. To really learn a game. I mean, not be like, okay, well, now I know where to look up the rules. I mean, to learn how to play a game like that. It takes commitment. It does.
Absolutely.
And for someone who has like 400 or 500 of those games and all the expansions to go with them, it takes a real commitment.
We'll talk about that, but you're right. It's funny you say that because you're not even on the War Room, and that's what we say on the War Room is you need to learn how to play the game. And what we mean is not, where the rules are or looking up the rules. You need to know how. You need to know the mechanics. You need to understand the behind the scenes, how everything interacts and how everything works together.
Right.
And and to do that with a war game, it needs several plays, just like a regular board game. But unfortunately for wargaming, it usually takes a lot more. Yep. Steven, I play both war games and non-war games, and I'm only proficient at ordering them.
Steven, glad you could make it. I'd like to say something to everyone here in the chat. It turns out that I have gas. Game acquisition syndrome.
Game acquisition syndrome. Okay, that's a good one.
I have gas.
Like that. Don't we all? Don't we all? If you are, whether you're a war gamer or board gamer or whoever you are, I don't think there is I own enough games in your vocabulary because there's always more.
There's always at least one more that you got to get.
Always at least one more, right?
And you get that new one, and the one that you've been trying to get to gets set aside, like you guys were talking about a month or two ago or so. And I'd like to bring it forward, even though I didn't participate. I don't have that many war games. I did a Shelf of Shame war game last month.
Oh, what did you do?
I have not played Fortress Europa in decades.
Ah, nice.
I got it out on the table over the span of a few evenings. So I got my Shelf of Shame war game out there for you guys, just so you know.
Well, it is, Chris, it warms my heart because in July, as you know, we have on the War Room, we have a challenge out to all of our subscribers.
Oh, yeah.
But if you play 10 war games in the year, at the end of the year, we're going to be giving games away and you're going to be entered into the drawing for free. So all you have to do is play your 10 games. And in July, we decided to let everyone, because you have to post your 10 games at the beginning of the year.
Right.
And so you have to decide ahead of time, which games am I going to play? Well, in July, I just said, you know what? We're going to give everyone a reprieve. We're going to let everyone play a game from their shelf of shame
Mhm.
and replace one of the games on their list. All they had to do this was post on our Facebook or Compson World that they wanted to change games and show a picture of them playing the game.
Mhm.
You know how many people took me up on that offer?
It wasn't many.
0.
Wow.
Yes. So to hear that you took opportunity to play your game
And
under,
I watched that episode, and it touched me.
right? It's
It did.
obviously that's important. The consequences of not knowing how to play well can become much more obvious in war game. That's true.
I
That is absolutely
agree,
true.
because of the meticulousness of the rules and the way that everything is set up to mechanically work the way that the game is supposed to. Yeah, totally on board with that, Mike. Totally on board with that. Very seldom do you see the rules as compartmentalized and needing to know where all the compartments are. Very seldom do you see that in what would be considered a board game. Yeah, no, I agree with that statement completely, Mike. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Mike's a pretty smart guy. He always has some very smart things to say. And most of our subscribers, actually, and most of our viewers on my channel here, I hate to pound my own chest, but most everyone seems to be pretty smart on my viewers.
You draw a higher class of clientele there,
I
IDJ.
I guess I do. I can send some of them over your way though, because maybe you can get a few of those knuckleheads over your way. So
I got a couple of them.
as manufacture and logistics have improved a bit since the C word, all these late Kickstarters are starting to let loose at the same time. I think GMT also. Well, here's the thing: is I still have a Kickstarter from 2019 that is still in the works, and they just posted, I think last month it was, that they were not going to release it until early next year, 2023.
Everybody's still catching up. Everybody is still catching up. I mean, you look at the Great Depression in 1929, and the worst of it we didn't see until 1932. And we're at the 3-year point with the C word. And our next year is that year. And it's still slogging along. It's going to, it's just things get froze up like that. Not any reason, not any people responsible. It happened, and it takes a while to come out of it.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah,
It's just amazing that 2019 sounds like so long ago, but in reality it's only like 3 years. I mean, it's not like 100 years ago, but 2019 seems like a different
been a
decade.
while.
It is a different decade.
It was, yeah.
So
no, it seems like it's been a very long 3 years. It does.
Yeah. In fact, the game that I kickstarted, can't even remember the name of it now because somebody was in the chat asking about it. Was asking for the name. I can't even remember what it is, what the title is. Let me pull up my account here real quick. And it is you all please, thank you. It is called Dawn of Madness, which I kickstarted in November 2019, and the estimated delivery was 2021. It looks like it's now going to be 2023 before Dawn of Madness is able to be shipped out to me. So,
and if they're not offering any reasons, I mean, there's any number of things. It could be like Anthony Crooks, Bleacher Blums Gaming with college Glory Days college football. The reason why they have not offered a print version over at Sideline Sports Games yet is because he wants to keep with the same people that printed Glory Days boxing, and they're unable to fulfill it. And he wants to keep that commitment with them to have them print his game. So that's why it's PDF only. So I mean, it could be something as innocuous
Could
as
be
that.
anything,
Also.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I kind of actually lost interest in this game. They keep emailing me information. I don't even read the emails anymore. I'm just like, when the game comes, just ship it to me. You know,
I'll get it when I get it.
I don't even. I got a million other things to deal with before I'd even worry about, you know, whether your game gets shipped to me or not.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's neither here nor there. But anyways, yeah, quite a bit of change this year. So I've been on the board game kick, as you know, and I've been really stressing getting this done because at the end of the year, I want to do my top 50 board games of all time list. But to really do that list, I want to order a lot of these games that I don't have because
Get a lot
I
of
want to
plays under
improve
your
them,
arm,
right?
so that way you got experience with them.
Play them. I want to try them out. I want to see because I want to know what's going to end up in that list. And there's several that I had not played until this year that I really, 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 really like, and I think they're going to end up in the top 10 or top 15 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
If you were going to have, say, a top 20 list or top 25 list of your board games, have you played any new ones that you haven't played until maybe this year that you've come across and were like, wow, I'm completely blown apart by this?
I've got 25 games I've bought this year. If you count Wingspan, what you got for a Christmas gift, that's 26. But the ones I've gotten recently, I've got a little list here, so I'll go ahead and go over it real quick if you like. I got Terraforming Mars, Ares Expedition. And want to say a little something on that. I know you weren't so hot with the hand management and how it takes up so much time. I haven't gotten to that point myself because if I have cards that I'm not going to use that turn or maybe the next, I sell them and get the money. So yeah, that's something I haven't run into personally yet. But yeah, I got Terraforming Mars, Ares Expedition. Of course, I got Nations. I got that from Board Game Co. a couple of months ago, right after you played it. I was fortunate enough to find an out-of-print game for only $45 shipped. I got Architects of the West Kingdom, and I got the collector's box on accident because I didn't realize what it was. But it came with some extra cards, so that actually includes a little bit of an expansion.
Mm-hmm.
I got Terraforming Mars Preludes expansion after watching you play it, and
You have to have that one.
It's in the box, and it's going to be played that way all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's in the box, so that's part of the game now for me. I got Arkham Horror, the card game, and I played 4 or 5 of that and actually won one, so I'm kind of getting the hang of that. I'm enjoying that.
Okay.
I got Dead Ball, Baseball with Dice from Drive Through RPG. And it's basically a way to create baseball players and play a baseball game. So it's a baseball game. It's a D10 system. So I was kind of like, okay, I can make some dead ball teams and maybe eventually do a dead ball league too.
Sure. Yeah.
Kind of cool.
Yeah.
And then, of course, today Azul showed up.
So
those are the games I've gotten in the past couple of months.
Nice. Mm-hmm. That's a pretty good haul. Pretty decent haul.
Yep.
So if you were like board game, if you were going to rate some of the games that you played this year, like give us, not maybe in any specific order, but like your top 5 favorite. It sounds like Wingspan's obviously in your top 5.
Wingspan is it. I mean, just as much as I played it, that's indicative of how much I love that game. Who knew? A game about birds and eggs, man.
Right. Yeah.
Luring birds into your aviary. And it's okay. Yeah. No, the way the game plays, it's so cool. It's the way the cards can combo. There are so many ways the game can turn out, and you keep wanting to go back and get that 127-point game again,
Well, interesting enough,
mm-hmm.
Currently I do not own Wingspan or any of the expansions.
Mm-hmm.
So I know you've been...
well, that's another one that if you want to, they've got it on Steam, and we can get together and play sometime.
I've seen it on Steam. I just...
play it. Yeah. If you want. I'm not going to pressure you. I'm not going to say you need to do it. This is not an enabler thing. You'll do it when
you
you're
should
ready.
be in anywhere.
You'll do it when you're ready. You'll do it when you're ready. Now, don't rush it. You got a lot of stuff going, and if it's not
I do have a lot of
grabbing you,
stuff, but I always, if it's that good, I should get it.
it's going to be out there, so let it ride. It's going to be around for a long time. Let it ride.
All right.
Yep, let it ride.
What else with Wingspan? What else you got?
Oh man, this year
Terraforming Mars.
Terraforming Mars.
Would that be in the top 5? Would that be one of your top 5?
It will be Terraforming Mars. Trying to think of the games I've got downstairs on the shelves. Dune Imperium.
Dune Imperium.
I love Dune Imperium, and I've finally gotten to where I can keep the hand size down, so those cards that you get from the market come through a lot more often. So that's
let me tell you,
a big key in that game.
The reason I asked you these questions is because of Dune Imperium. It is probably, for me at this point, it's probably my game of the year. I know it wasn't released this year, but if I was gonna just classify all the games that I played in 2022
exactly
and say these are the games I played, and I'm going to rank them number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. Dune Imperium with the Rise of X, which is an expansion, which I know you don't believe in, but we'll talk about that later. For me, there's so many good things with this game. The AI runs
a great
beautifully.
Game. Yeah, House of Hagal is beautifully. It's elegant the way that it works. I enjoy it because I lose more than I win, and I keep going back for more.
Were you in when I played I played Saturday.
I believe I was.
Then we played. Then when I had the War Room, and then we played again Saturday night because I was like, I have to do this. So we played Saturday night. It literally came down to the guy had 9 victory points. I had 8 victory points, and the card we were fighting over were 2 victory points.
Oh yeah,
so whoever was going to win this was going to end up, and it came down to I had a bunch of dudes in the center, and he had a bunch of guys in his garrison, and he had 1 card left, and I'm like, if he doesn't bring any guys in, I will win. And he drew the card, and he ended up bringing in a bunch of guys from his garrison, and he had like a strength of 13. Now he had like a strength of 8 or 7 or 6 or something. So, and I didn't have any combat strength. I didn't have anything. So I'm like,
board game
last
universe.
Card.
The board game universe is ruled by irony. I have finally built up enough spice. I'm going to Highliner to get these 2 victory points in this conflict. Next time it comes around, I'm going to Highliner. Then one of the other 2 flips Highliner, and I'm like,
it's great. Man. I really, really like. I love the little deck building mechanics, where whatever cards are not. It's kind of an interesting thing where you get 5 cards or 4. Was it 5 cards? 4 cards? 5 cards. Okay.
Yep.
And then each one of your meeples, you have to spend a card to activate your meeple. So the more meeples you get, the more cards you're going to use, which are going to give you less cards you're going to have at the end of the game or the end of the round to turn in for all your bonuses.
That's where you make sure that you get cards that have the draw card part of your agent action. So that way, when you play it to send an agent to a location on the board, draw a card. Good.
Yeah. And there's a lot of, and I hear they're coming out with another expansion for us, so I can't wait. Can't wait for that. I know you can.
I have had my finger on the trigger, House of X, many times, but like I mentioned to you when we were talking earlier, I buy that expansion, I forego another board game. And that's a big.
That's true. It is like
and House of X
$50
is the next expansion that I'm planning on getting. I just haven't gotten it yet. If I had gotten House of X, I wouldn't have been able to get Azul. And I love Azul.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's choices, right?
But it's there.
It's choices.
One of these days, I'm going to say, no, I'm not getting that board game.
You can't do both.
House of X.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But House of X does add a couple factions for you to play.
Right.
try out.
Yep.
And add some technologies, which
Yeah, I
is
saw that.
the
And
plan
in
and
doing
fix.
so, I think it's cool the way that they remove Hall of Oratory and whatever the one in the bottom middle is in the core game. Because
Right.
those two don't really do a lot. It keeps shoot, I can't remember right off the top of my head because it's been a
Right.
while since I've seen your board. But yeah, they
Yep, and
remove
it's
the
got
ones you
the
don't
shipping
really need.
track where you move your little guy up for shipping, and
Yep.
then I mean,
And then the
there's
technology track to get dreadnoughts and whatnot. Yeah.
dreadnoughts which add into the garrison
Hmm.
and give you 3 strength as opposed to your units. Anyways, I
Yeah.
just that was one of the games that this year
It's a great game. It is.
really sparked my imagination and why I wanted to not release my top 50 games of all time until after I've gone around and bought some of these
Mhm.
new games that I don't own.
And I got it because it came on Amazon Prime, the movie. And when the price finally dropped to like 15 or something, I was like, okay, because I knew I wanted to buy it and I wanted to be able to watch it. So I went ahead and I purchased a movie. And about a half hour into it, I was like, Amazon, Dune, buy. Oh man.
I don't know. The theme when I bought the Dune was I have no interest in Dune whatsoever.
Yeah.
I didn't know any of the characters. I didn't know what the Bene Gesserit was. I didn't know what the Freeman was. I didn't know any of the characters' names. I still don't. Like when I'm playing a character, I'm looking at her. I'm like, this is Countess so and so,
Right.
and this is Prince so and so. They got the same last names, but I don't know if they're brother or sister, aunt, uncle.
And a lot of those are from the
I have
books.
no idea.
A lot of those are from the books, and I haven't read the
Yeah.
books. Yeah, just the movies. Really, honestly, is all that I'm in is just the movies.
Right.
But we have something that we sing now when we play Dune. I heard it somewhere else and I accidentally let it go. And now every time somebody goes to secrets or selective breeding, it's Bene Gesserit. Ding, 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 ding. Bene Gesserit.
Okay. All right. Well, now I hope I don't have to sing that song when I do it. Oh my God. I hope not. Terraforming Mars was also one of those games for me that was like
That's a great game. It is.
And this is kind of I don't even know if I want to get into this yet, but Terraforming Mars is a perfect example of expansions and the good nature of expansions for gaming. In that, when I originally played Terraforming Mars, I was not a fan of it. I thought it was kind of boring and there wasn't much going on. And the people I had playing with were a lot more experienced, and that was my first time. So I was looking at these cards and I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. Can I do this? Can I play this card? And they go, no, you shouldn't play that card. Okay, can I play this? I had no idea. So
that's one thing. If you've got like 3-4 experienced players like that and they're wanting to teach you a new game, one of them ought to like sit out of the game and sit over with you.
Yeah.
And kind of like mentor you, like, well, this is what you're looking for here, because this can do that later. Or since this does something you're not worried about, you may not worry about that. That's totally up to you, however you want to, point things out. That would be a cool thing.
Yeah. There's lots of ways to do that. But I had no inkling to buy it, blah, blah, blah. Fast forward 3 years. I refused to buy it because I'm like, I'm just wasting my money. I'm wasting my money. But then you see all these people talking about it, mentioning it, and you see the advertisement for it. And then I think I don't know if it was like Amazon Prime special or if I was on a website and they were having a special on it. And I was like, oh my God, it's like $20 off. Sure, whatever. I'll buy it and try it out. And I bought it and I tried it out and I thought, Yeah, I was right. It's just it's just not a good game. No, it's just kind of boring. There's not a lot to it. There's it just, you're playing the same cards, or the only difference is how much is it going to get, how much is it going to cost.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought it was kind of boring. But then they come out with all the expansions, and I thought, I was watching some people play it, and they were playing with the expansions, and I'm like, well, that looks fun. Why don't I get the expansions? So I did. And now I love that game. It's night and day to me. It's absolutely night and day. Mm-hmm. And we'll talk about when we get into the expansions, and the good and the positive about expansions, and the negative and the cons about expansions. But for me, Terraforming Mars kind of amplifies the good and bad with the expansions.
Yeah. And it's different for every person, because Terraforming Mars, I really enjoyed the way it was, and the expansion that I got, the Prelude, made it that much better. But I enjoy it enough the way that it is personally, that I don't need to get the expansions in order to get that experience out of it. So it's different for everybody. It really is. Yeah.
That's why I wanted to have you on, because I know you have. I mean, we have a lot of the same tastes and the same likes and the same interests and stuff, but we also think differently and about different things, which is good, because I can tell you how wrong you are.
I'll be back.
And how silly your opinions are, and how correct I am, because I'm always right about everything.
This guy knows everything.
It's true. It's true.
What he doesn't know, I do.
Right. I picked the World Series champion 3 years in a row. That's not a bad. It's not bad.
Didn't lay any money on it, did you?
I didn't.
Yeah, that's the key for me. If I don't put any money on it, man, I am good.
Calculated it out. We calculated it out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because I came across a website, and some of you may remember, but in 2019, the Washington Nationals went to the World Series and won, which I predicted in the beginning of the season. But it was a June 6th or whatever, they were 19-31. They were in last place. And so their chance to win the World Series at that point was 3,500 to 1. So if you would have put $1,000 down, you would have won $3.5 million.
Heck, if you'd have put $1 down, you'd have come out 3.5 G above it.
Right.
Yeah.
If we would only be able to go back and do that, I mean, it's like, oh my God, who would have thunk? Who would have known?
Yep.
Unbelievable.
No, I go all the way back to the 1990 NFC Championship game in the Super Bowl. Everyone was like, "Oh yeah, who's going to win?" And it was the Giants and Niners, and I'm like, Giants are going to win by 2 points. They won 15-13 over the Niners. I was like, you got to be kidding me. Okay, you picked that one. What's going to happen in the Super Bowl? Said it's going to be a 1-point game, and it'll be decided by a field goal. Giants won 20-19. Scott Norwood wide right.
Yeah.
I even picked decided by a field goal.
My dad used to say, "Those who think they know it all annoy us. That annoy those of us
that do."
That do. Yes, that's true. That is true. Let's see. I'm gonna pull up my little YouTube, because I forget. I'm getting old now, Chris. I'm getting old.
No, but I've been playing just a lot of games, man. Yeah. And
of course, we now run Arkham Horror every Sunday night, baby. Oh my God, I'm having so much fun. I don't know if you know this, there's a lot of Arkham Horror games out there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Arkham Horror games. So we're doing that every Sunday night. Oh, we got to play Mystic Vale the other night. That was awesome. Right. Of course. Valley of the Kings. We got to play Darkest Night, Tomb. I'm just looking at ones that we got to play this year so far. Castles of Burgundy, Kingsburg,
Castles
Churchill.
of Burgundy.
You don't like Castles of Burgundy? Really?
Not a lick. It is way too nothing. Just the theme is blah. No. I played it 2 or 3 times, learned how to play it, played it pretty well, got rid of it. I got store credit.
Baseball Demos. Good friend, Baseball Demos.
Dave.
Who always in my heart, because to be honest, Baseball Demos was one of the guys that when I started getting into sports simming, I watched Baseball Demos, I watched yourself, and basically I emulated what you guys were doing and kind of threw my own little spice in it. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched Baseball Demos. I watched the way he did things, and I was like, he's having a lot of fun doing this, and maybe I could try that sometime.
Yep.
So, but do I play Apple football anymore? No, I don't play Apple football anymore. As
I've
most
got
of you know,
mine, and it's been a while since I played it, but my brother found some more of my handwritten cards that I made back in the late 80s, early 90s, all-time great teams that I had, so I'm going to have to revisit that and have some fun.
Wow.
Yep.
I'm
E4 Airman. Welcome.
Welcome, E4 Airman. Nice to see you, sir. Thank you for coming by. Thank you, everyone, for coming by on our first show. We have 15 people here, and we didn't get a chance. We're hoping to do this every Thursday at 7:00 and talk board gaming, and I hope everyone can join us and watch and comment, and hopefully, we'll grow as big as our war game community out there. Hopefully.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, don't forget to give us a thumbs up. That would be awesome, you guys. We do appreciate it.
Yeah,
we do
I better do that
you.
right now. There we go.
Fact,
Yep.
We're gonna try and have some.
Up.
We're gonna have some giveaways. We're gonna have some guests, hosts. We're gonna have Herman back on. Probably be in a couple weeks before we get Herman back on, but we're gonna get to talk with Herman Lutman again as usual. And we'll have all kinds of different guests and stuff on, and maybe Lower Sword Board Gamer will be coming back on and talking about all of his fun stuff. Nations. I played Nations, as you know, because
because you're an enabler.
I'm an enabler. Paladins of the West Kingdom. I played that.
I saw you play that, and I was like, it's, I love Architects. I do enjoy.
This is the thing. I got both of them because I saw people playing them. I said, this is perfect. Solo.
Right. Yeah.
It's going to be awesome. I went and full blown bought the original game, the expansions, and even got the big player mat and everything for Architects.
Right.
Played it the first time, and I'm like, ooh, that's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. Ooh. When does the hockey talk start? We're going to talk hockey, which just started yesterday with the Tampa Bay Lightning. And when does the hockey talk start?
It's coming.
Soon, my friend, soon. Good to see you, Dave.
But yeah, I saw you playing Paladins, and it just didn't quite ring with me. I got that Caverna vibe that I'd try it if someone wanted to sit me down at a table and play their copy, but I didn't want to buy it.
So you didn't get the Architects? Or you did?
I did get Architects.
Oh, you did get. Okay, just didn't get.
Yeah, I got that one. Yeah.
I don't know. I need to give them another chance, but man, the games are really, really good. It's just solo mode is so much work. It is a lot of work, which is.
I got the hang of it quickly, and that might make a difference to it because I flip a card, I know exactly what gets done, and I just blow through it. I mean, just maybe the way that I approach board games and the way that I think it was intuitive for me.
The other thing, the downside to expansions is I think those expansions, I mean, as you know, I only have a little limited amount of space. And when you start talking extra boards and extra cards and extra piles of cards, and extra dice and extra cards that you got to leave out on the table. It all
couch
takes some
drawers.
space, man.
Under couch drawers.
Jeez, it all takes space, man. You have to have the space for it. And if you don't have the space, this is where expansions can come back and bite you in the butt. It's like, oh, this is cool. It adds all these new things, but it also adds another board that you need to put out there. Well, then, you got to find a place to put the board, and you got to find a place to put all the little pieces. And
what do you do with your expansion boxes if the bits fit in the original box?
I throw them out.
I do too.
Unless
I'm happy to say that there's no reason to keep the extra box sitting around, honestly. I mean, it may be a pretty box to look at, but if I'm getting the game out in the game box, I don't need to keep the other one sitting around. Don't put your back out, IDJ.
No, these are all empty. These are all empty boxes.
Holy, then
these are all expansions that.
Yeah.
And I kept the boxes for now because
that's like the Prelude box for Terraforming Mars works perfectly for holding the bits in my collector's box for Architects of the West Kingdom, so I don't have to dig all the way down into the dividers to get the wee little pieces out. So they could come in handy in other places.
Yes, that is so. You asked me what I did with the extra boxes, right? Well, normally what I did was I stacked them behind my TV set so no one can see them until I decide what to do with them. Normally I throw them away, but then I'm like, okay, here's the cool thing is I could actually take and put, like you said, I can take all the bits for a game and I can put it in here, right?
Yeah.
I can just put the little bits in there and then I put this box inside, the other box. And then I have all the bits for it in this little game. The reason those are
handy and grab it and go.
Yeah. The reason those aren't going away right now is because our recycling down here in Florida because of the hurricane has been put on hold. So instead of putting all those things back behind the TV set, I was going to throw them all out, but our recycling's been put on hold. So because of the hurricane. So, but normally. I only keep because of space. I only keep the boxes I have to keep.
Yeah, and it's same here. I mean, I don't have as many games as you do, but I got a limited space where I can keep stuff handy. Yeah.
So those of you that are watching in the chat, and those of you who've been around my channel for a while, how many of you? And I know Chris gets to raise his hand. How many of you rated your board games on Pub Meatball? Yeah, right? Right. How many of you guys?
Yeah.
Right. You guys need to do that. It's a great exercise. And number one, getting all your games into Board Game Geek because you want to stay on that. You want to input all your games in there so you know what you have, you know what you're missing. For me, right? When I put a game in, I can go to Board Game Geek and I can click on expansions. I can see all the expansions I'm missing. Right? So there's a lot of reasons to have your board games on Board Game Geek. You can list games that you don't want anymore. You can try to sell them. You can find out what expansions you're missing. You can find out how many you own. There's lots of reasons to have your board game collection in Board Game Geek.
You can surprise yourself and realize that even though it's still one of your favorite games of the year, that Spirit Island and Dune have supplanted Wingspan as my top games.
Right.
How
would you know? I was actually going to mention.
Yeah, because I was like
Spirit Island.
I really think Spirit Island more. I haven't played it nearly as much. I mean, 115, 120 plays of Wingspan this year alone. But still, you
have too many games to rate. It would take years. No excuse.
It only took IDJ 2.5 hours, people.
Yeah, it only took me 2.5 hours. If I can do it in 2.5 hours, you can do it in 2.5 hours. It doesn't take that long. Let's see here. We have Andre. Andre, good to see you, my friend. Thanks for coming by. Used to play APA and Status Pro football years ago. I like to keep the extra boxes in case I sell it off. But I know that it is tempting nowadays to keep your boxes just in case you want to sell it back or sell it out because
I've thought of that, but I'd put it out there as game with expansions if
yeah.
they're all in the same box
But
and there's room for it.
people will pay more if they get the boxes for the
True.
expansions.
True.
They will
True.
absolutely. But is it worth it, the space? I don't know.
Are you a player, a collector, or a reseller? I mean, it depends
Well,
on your
that's the
approach.
thing. That's the thing, right?
It depends. Stig, how's it going?
Stigler did his. He did his rating.
Rank.
Good on
Thank
Stigler.
you, Stig. You are correct. It is ranking.
E4 Airman did his ranking as well. So thank you, E4 Airman. Andre Ford did his as well. That's good. Hopefully, you guys posted your top 10, 20 on our Facebook and ComSim World groups over there. That would be awesome.
Wow, Mike.
I haven't rated them all, but I prioritized my list. Still have a few more. Thing is, you gotta stay up on your choices, right? Every time you get something in, I just got a box in the other day. First thing I did is I'm doing the unboxing. I went to Board Game Geek and I was adding my collection in. When I showed it to everyone, I said, okay, hang on a second. I got to add it. Because if you say to yourself, oh, I'll do it later tonight.
I add it when I order it.
Oh, that's
that
a great
way when
idea
it shows up, it's already in my collection. And after my first play, I put the play right in. Go. Yeah.
And I think, when you have to make a choice, because, I mean, it's great to always say, oh, Spirit Island's better than Arkham Horror, or Wingspan is better than Terraforming Mars, right? But then when you're forced to it and you got to make a choice, it's different because then you're like, oh, damn, what do I do? Because I like this one, but I like, which one? Oh, I only get, what do you mean I only get one choice? No, you only get one choice, dude. You only get one choice. So you have to make a decision and whichever one you don't vote for is going to move down the list.
In the back of your head, it's like, is this the day?
And the other thing is, I think you have to actually run your list 2 or 3 times because the first time you do it, you're doing it with emotions and memories and everything. And then you get to the end and you see your list and you go, how is that? That's not my list. That's crazy. That's not right. I mean, I wouldn't have voted this game down that far. And you get to thinking, oh, why? Is because I voted against this game. But, really, I didn't mean to do it that way.
That's how Scythe ended up in my lower 20s.
Right.
And I love it. I love Scythe, but it ended up on my lower 20s. Who knew? Yeah.
Some of your choices you are made with brutal. That's right. That's the word to put. Brutal.
Yeah.
It gives you a choice, and it's all well and good when you have one game that you're and the other game you love. It's like, oh yeah, this one, boom, and you can go through those and you're doing great, and then all of a sudden it's like, bam, 2 games that you love, and then you're like, oh wait a minute, no wait, time out, whoa.
Yep. Oh, you were so agonized when you were doing that. I felt sorry for you, man. I felt for you. I did.
It is a if you take it serious, it is a thing. It's not just a and for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, I will share my screen with you guys so that you all at home might be able to figure this out. So if you go to pubmeeple.com, you can go up here to the ranking engine, and you can actually rank all kinds of different things. Your beverages, your books, your board games, your what else is there? Comics, characters, food, movies, just all kinds of different things. But if you have your board games, you can just click on your board games and put your Board Game Geek username in there and just hit go. And it'll basically run the program where it'll ask you to compare games, and you'll do that randomly for like 45 minutes to an hour, and then it'll
Depending on how many games you have, it'll put games higher, lower compared to each other. And then it starts to get a little more localized. So you start seeing 10, 11, 12 games together, and then it really starts to fine tune it. And then you get a list.
Yep. And it's a lot of fun. Like I said, it's an eye-opening experience. I know when I ran it with all my board games together, and then I ran it separately with just my war games, and it ended up completely different. So it's interesting how that worked out. So I need to run it a couple more times, and I need to run it again because I've gotten probably another 10 or 15 games in the last month. So
Oh, you keep reeling them in, man. Hand over fist, man. Games.
I'm trying. I'm doing it for my peeps out there. I'm doing it for everyone, because when I do my top 50 countdown of all time, it's going to be a major underdoing. I think I'm going to do 5 games per episode. Try and switch it 5 games in a half hour episode. So it should be a good thing. And like I said, before I do that, I wanted to play all these games. I want to play like Gandhi, Gandhi over here, right?
Yep.
It's not like one of my favorite war games of all time, but I still wanted to play it again because I want to get a general understanding of where should it fall in the list, right? Not going to be in the top 10, but should it be in the top 20? Should it be in the top 30? Should it be in the top 100?
Yep. See, you are an enabler.
I am.
You're an enabler, man.
No, I'm not an enabler.
There's a special room in hell for people like you.
I'm an inspirer. You inspire to be like me, and that's fine. If you want to be like me, that's a good option.
Inspire people to get board games and expansions.
So should we talk about expansions?
Let's talk about expansions.
Let's talk about expansions. Yeah. So this episode is all about, Chris asked me today, when I asked him if he was still coming on the show, he's like, well, do we have a topic? Or are we just randomly jabbering? What are we doing? And I said, no, we've got information. We do research here. We find out, we get down to business. This is not just made up on the fly.
And no, it's not, because even though I'm not an expansion guy, I came with personal information, so I wouldn't have to be like,
So the question is, or not the question, but the statement is, are expansions good for board gaming? Yes or no? And we're going to delve into both yes and no at the same time. Chris, are expansions good for board gaming?
Expansions can be good for board gaming. And it really depends on both the gamer and the game. It's different for everybody. How I decide on whether I want an expansion or not, there are 3 things that I take into consideration. One,
before you start.
Okay.
Before you start.
Yep.
We should let the crowd at home, or those people just joining us, know our views on expansions. Okay. Yep. I own somewhere in the neighborhood of like 250 to 280 games, and I own more expansions than I own games. I am the side where if I get a game, I get every expansion I can for that game, whether I want to or not. I always get all the expansions because I'm a completionist. So that's my general view on this. Chris, what is your general view on expansion?
It really depends. Personally, for me, the biggest thing for me is, unless it's something that I really, really have decided that I want to get, the price of that expansion is the price of the next board game that I want to get. And I generally forego it and go with the board game, because by and large, the games that I get, I enjoy the way that they are, with few exceptions. Am I tempted, let alone made to get an expansion? Because, well, there are reasons on how I decide to do it, but by and large, core game is good enough for me.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So I'm kind of on one end of the spectrum,
Mhm.
and you're kind of technically on the other end of the spectrum.
Yep. And we're going to meet in the
We're
middle.
gonna meet right in the middle.
Pow.
All right. So, as we were saying, what were you reading now there?
Well, there's three major factors that help me to decide whether I want to get an expansion for a game or not. Again, the first one is, do I have a game that I'm really wanting to get and I have the money freed up to purchase the expansion or the next new game? 99 times out of 100, I'm going to go for the next new game. That is money that I can spend towards a different experience, not necessarily a slightly different or improved or expanded or augmented experience of something that I already have, but a completely new experience. The second thing that is the content I'm looking for desired. And I'll go into examples of that as we continue to have the discussion. But sometimes there are just certain things that I want to include with the game that I've gotten, and I will pursue the expansions for that purpose. And the third, and I've used it for the last couple of years, are watching ready example in my face YouTube gaming reviews with YouTubers that I generally trust their judgment and align with the kind of games that they like. Two examples that pop into my head are Z Garcia and Sam Healy, formerly of the Dice Tower. And a lot of times when I watch something and it encourages me to dig into it more. It interests me past, oh, there's a new game. Oh, there's a new game I really need to focus on and check out. And if they mention an expansion as being essential, I'll check that out as well. So those are the three things that generally influence whether or not I'm going to purchase an expansion.
If you're going to get an expansion. Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right. So I agree. Everyone is different, as you said, right? Mm-hmm. Everyone has their own philosophy. I just automatically, if I order a game, I order the expansion if it's available, whatever, because I just naturally, that's the way I've done things. That's the way I do things. So I've always done it that way. So I just keep doing it that way. I don't even think about it. I just go, oh, this game here. Oh, expansion. Oh, sure. So I just kind of I don't even think about it, what is the expansion add, how much it costs. All that stuff goes in one ear and out the other because I'm just programmed to go add game.
So if you're committing to a game, you're committing to the game.
Right.
Okay,
exactly.
Cool.
Exactly. Yep. I just commit to a game, and if I get the game, I buy into the game, and literally, like, where is it? I'll get it out. I'll get out one of my shameful, right? So, Marvel Champions, they release all the individual packs.
Saw that the other night.
Right? Yep. So I got a few extra heroes to play with the game, and I have something to actually play with
that you're going to enjoy playing with.
And I'm going to keep buying the game characters for the game.
Yeah.
Right? So you can see all the characters that I bought for the game.
Yep.
So here's what we're going to do. We're going to split this up. Maybe we're going to talk about the good and the bad of expansions for board gaming.
Mm-hmm.
Should we talk about the good first or the bad first? What do you guys think? What do you think, Chris? What should we talk about? Because there are...
Let's end it on a good note.
All right, so we're going to talk about the bad.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about the bad part of... And I've got a list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things. And Chris, you can jump in. We'll talk about each of these. Yeah. And we're going to talk about the bad part of expansions first. All right?
Go for the ugly. That's it, Stegler. All right. Yes, sir.
So number one for me, we're going to talk about the bad part for like 10 or 15 minutes, and we'll talk about the good part for about 10 or 15 minutes, and then we'll give our final thoughts for 10 or 15 minutes, and that'll pretty much wrap up the show about. Okay? So the bad of expansions. it's not all good, right? It's not all good. And even though
No.
I have I have a few expansions. I just have a few. Okay.
And honestly, with your experience, you would know better than I that there is some bad with expansions. No, I'm not meaning that facetiously. You have a lot more experience with expansions, so you would know better than I would.
I will use.
How'd you like that word facetiously, folks?
I love it.
I do my bigger upper exercises.
I'm gonna be professional YouTuber. I'm gonna be professional because when I talk about a game, I'm gonna give you an example. All right. For my first bad,
as am I.
For my first bad, I'm going to talk about adding complexity to the game that can slow down the game. So you can take a game, the base game, and maybe play it in 20, 30 minutes or whatever. Then you start adding expansions and extra boards and extra players and extra dice and extra cards and extra this and extra that and blah, blah, blah. All of a sudden, you got your 20, 30-minute game that lasts an hour and a half all of a sudden.
Yep.
So added complexity. And for that, we're going to talk about Teotihuacan, City of Gods.
Teotihuacan.
I have the base game and I have all 3 of the expansions in the game.
3?
And I played just the base game, and it rolls just fine, and it plays just fine. And I started adding in all of the extra expansions. Each expansion adds like 4 or 5 different things. So you're talking 3 expansions. You're all of a sudden talking 12 to 15 different things. There are a multitude of extra boards now that you're going to play with. You now have extra pieces. You have a new resource that you have to have in the game. And after I played it with all of the extra expansions, I said to myself, wow, I don't know if all these expansions, I mean, sure, it added some things to the game, but was it worth it in the long run?
My example would be anyone who's been doing board games for the last 25, 27 years is compelled to be familiar with the designer named Klaus Teuber. Settlers of Catan. The 5 to 6 player expansion. As much as I love Catan, it takes a very long game and makes it very, very longer. And there, instead of waiting through 2 or 3 turns before it comes back around to your turn, now you got to wait through 5. And as much as you would like to have your entire gaming group play the game, 5 or 6 people at a time, it makes some of the turns when people are laboring over their decision interminable.
Yeah.
And it is meant to include more people at one time at the expense of way unnecessarily lengthening the game.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, absolutely. I can see that for sure. All right, number 2.
True.
For the bad part of expansions. And you've already mentioned this, but we're going to harp on it again. It is going to be another cost that you're added to the game. So you've got your base price, then you've got an expansion, 2 expansions, 3 expansions, 27 expansions, whatever. You start adding up the cost. Like, I don't even want to know how much I spend on Marvel Champions right now. I
want to say it goes with a pro, because one of the pros is the content that you desire in order to go along with the game. Well, that costs money.
And it would, as you said, it's all that money that I spent on these expansions. I could have bought 18 other games.
Well, you look at the Marvel that you got, and Marvel in it is interesting me. And if I get Marvel, I'm going to get some of those superheroes, so that way I can play with the ones that I favored when I grew up with. Another one is World War II Warfighter, the tactical combat card game. The base game was good, but man, I had to have extra USA. I had to have extra Germany. I had to have paratroopers because of Band of Brothers. I had to have coastal fortifications. I had to have Bastogne.
Right.
So there's another $80 or $90 added onto a $45, $50 game. So I enjoy it. That's a $130 game sitting on the shelf. More than Gloomhaven. That cost me more than Gloomhaven.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. I got the
We can add
big
up.
box. I got the big box of Gloomhaven right over there. $99. I've got probably 20 other games in my room that have more of a cost than that game right now because everyone threw up their hands. Oh my God, this game costs $100. I'm like, that ain't nothing. I don't know what you're talking about, but yeah.
And don't even get me started on collectible card games. That habit started about 27 years ago when Decipher came out with the Star Wars game in 1995. And I lived and breathed and ate Star Wars. We don't have Trivial Pursuit. We have the Star Wars Trivial Pursuit 500 card set. And my nephew was like, "Oh, what's this?" I was like, and he's a Star Wars nut. I said, "Ask me any question you want to in there and I'll answer it." And we went through 40 or 50 cards and I answered every single question, who the actor was, what producer was. So yeah, when those cards came out, I was buying booster pack after booster pack after booster pack. And Ron and I still have those cards, and every once in a while we break them out. But yeah, a lot of money. A lot of money.
Absolutely.
Yep.
All right, number 3. And this is really affecting me right now because I decided, as a lot of you know, if you've been around the channel for a while, when I moved from Ohio down to Florida, I had to sell off my game collection up there because it wouldn't fit in the stuff we were bringing down here. So I'm going to have to re-buy some of these games that I had previously owned. Speaking of which, Arkham Horror, right? My second edition, which I love, one of my top 5 games of all time. And I decided I was going to go ahead and re-buy that stuff. Well, this is a game from 2006, 2008, 2009, 2010. So all these expansions, it's hard to find them. And the price of them, I just bought 3 expansions. And each of them cost over $100 for each of the expansions. So
and it's a seller's market on stuff like that because there's no selection. They know they have you.
Right. So part 3 is for getting expansions. Is sometimes they're hard to find and they're hard to get.
Yeah.
So
no one else has them, so I don't need to sell it to you for $70 or $80 when the guy who's on the phone in a week is going to pay me the $120 I want.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
very expensive.
That is someone wanting to cash in on what they have, and they're not in a hurry to sell it, so they're waiting on the guy who's willing to pay what they think it's worth.
And there'll be people that are like me that are like, I gotta have this expansion to play, and I've got to complete my collection, or there's something in this expansion I really want to play with. So it can be trouble trying to just track down, like you said, trying to find somebody. I've got a Noble Knight. I have a list of games I want. I got like 80 games on there.
Yeah.
And I just waiting for somebody to, for them to turn it in. So Noble Knight will post it on there and I'll get an email from them saying, we now have your game. If you want to come join, Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. It's it can be troubling. It can be hard to find. It can be costly, and of course you might not even be able to get some of the expansions. I just got this one here, Star Trek Frontiers, The Wrath of Khan. This is a very hard to find expansion for Star Trek Frontiers.
Wow.
And this game in the shape that it's in cost me over $200 to get the expansion, but it's in like pristine condition, like never been used. So, but it's also like didn't want to spend the $200 on this, but it's like it's the only copy I can find, so it's either this or nothing. What are you gonna do?
With my last breath, I spit at thee. I love that movie.
Good.
Yep.
And it's one of my favorites as well. So expansions can be hard to come across, hard to find, and
even just if you're looking for a board game to refill that nostalgia thing, like I found Fortress America last year for only about 45 or 50, and it was a badly used game, but I was able to get it. But that drives a lot of this stuff where people know they wait, someone's going to find them. And they also know that if they wait, someone's going to find them to pay what they think that what they have is worth.
Right.
It can sit on a shelf for a while. I'm not in a hurry to move that. And when I sell it, I'll get what I want for it. And by and large, it happens.
Yep.
Yeah. Because nostalgia is a huge motivational factor when it comes to getting stuff. Wanting to relive the youth or the glory days or whatever it may be, you know?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, number 4 on the bad of expansions for board gaming.
Mhm.
These are things to consider. And this is kind of, and I'm going to talk about this when we do our overview at the very end of the game. This is a perfect example of an expansion that doesn't add anything to the game.
Mm-hmm.
There are several expansions for Terraforming Mars that are awesome and wonderful. And when you compare them to this one, which is basically, it just gives them another track to try to fill up. And it adds some of the mechanics are, it adds in, a free terraforming every turn.
Yeah.
And then you lose the terraforming rating at the beginning of your turn. So it's like it adds one, but then it takes away one, and then it gives you another track to build up. And it just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't really do anything to add to the game.
Yeah.
There are other expansions. I'm just using this as an example of an expansion that might not really do anything to add to the game. And here I spent $25, $30 on this expansion, and I wish I would have had that money back.
Well, that's like when I got the collector's box for Architects of the West Kingdom. The eBay listing said complete game, but the price is only $30 shipped, but it said complete game. And I thought about asking a question just to make sure, but I was like, nah, go ahead and order it. I got it. And it was the artistic collector's box with the molded bits holders and 6 extra apprentices.
Huh.
Okay. So, I mean, I got the regular one, and I said, well, if I bought this daggone box, I'm going to put the game in this box. But that expansion, those 6 apprentices, I've played the game a few times, and I really can't say that I have noticed the new ones coming through the apprentice deck. I mean, it's kind of like, okay, why put the cards in there at all? Just sell the organizer on Amazon for $20.
You deck of 100 cards, and you're adding like 3 cards to the deck, which I'll never probably see.
Right.
Big deal, right? Yeah.
I mean, there are a lot of instances where someone is just trying to cash in, and no forethought has gone into how not necessary, what effect it actually has on the game, if any.
Yep.
I mean, kind of like the Venus Next, it was like, oh, we're going to give them a new track. Let's just shove it out there and let people pay for it.
Yeah, and that kind of leads me into our number 5, and that is companies which dumb down, and this is my pet peeve, companies that dumb down the base game, and they take all of the fun and interesting things out because they want to add those back into the game as expansions. And they release the game thinking that players will spend all the extra money buying the expansions, but the base game is so bad and doesn't do anything that people don't like it because they've taken all the good parts out because they want to sell them as expansions.
It's like, I mean, it couldn't happen, but for instance, take all of the just have Terraforming Mars re-released with just the beginner corporations, where you get 42 and you get 10 cards and you don't have to pay for them, and then have an expansion with the corporations. So you re-release it without the corporations for the regular price, and then have the $20 expansion where you get the rest of the game that should have been in the box anyway. They're not doing that, but as an example, yeah.
That's it. Just
I've heard of
drives
another
me
example
insane when these companies and you see it in reviews, and the game is like, where's the rest of the game? And the companies are like, oh, well, you have to get this expansion and this expansion, because they don't want to just sell you a $60 game. They want to sell you the $60 game and the $40 expansion, and the $40 expansion and the $30 expansion. And that's what they want to do.
When in the
Every
first
game-
printing, that $40, and $30 expansions came with that game.
Right. Exactly. That's
Yeah.
that's the problem.
Yeah.
Is before companies figured this out, they used to release a full game,
Mhm.
and then you
Yeah.
buy it, and you wouldn't have to buy expansions for it.
Mhm.
Back in the 1970s,
Late 80s, early 90s.
90s, yeah. So
Yeah.
that then all of a sudden they realized, oh wait, we can release more parts to the game. That
Yeah.
sounds like money we can make.
Mm-hmm. And we're not talking like different versions of the game, like Footballopoly or Star Wars Monopoly or Star Trek Monopoly or whatever other kinds of monopolies were, because that's just for personal interest. We're talking like additions to the game, changes to the game. Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get positive, because we are all about positivity on the channel. We want to be positive. We see everything as a glass half full, not empty.
I tried to.
Let's talk about all the good parts that expansions can do.
Mm-hmm.
So number one, interesting enough, I have 5 things again.
Oh.
So part of the good things is they can add new mechanics to the game, or new options, or add something to the game that was that can expand it, like a new game board, and so they can add new mechanics to the game, or move, or like
significant changes.
Like we can say colonies here. We talked about the bad side, right? Let's talk about the good side. They can add colonies. Hey, we can add all these super cool colonies you can go to now, and each of them are going to do new things, and they're going to give you new bonuses, and you can colonize. And when your opponents go to your planet, you colonize, you get bonuses and all kinds of neat things that we can add to the game. Great expansion.
Yeah. Another one, and I have not bought pandemic expansions or different games because of the aforementioned why buy that when I can get something else, get the next game. But Z Garcia that I mentioned earlier, one of the guys that I kind of align with his opinion on games from the Dice Tower, he is a pandemic freak. And he was doing a review on Pandemic on the Brink. And he said, this being my favorite game of all time, if I had to say that you had to get one of the expansions, I would say that Pandemic on the Brink is the one that you need to get, because, and then he went on to describe the changes, and it adds 3 different things that can wreck your chances of curing all the diseases, but you don't have to do all 3. You can do a single one, you can do any combination, you can do all 3. It brings a few extra roles, people that are going out to combat the disease. It brings a few extra event cards. And I have my pandemic game in the On the Brink box. I have not played pure Pandemic since I got this expansion about a year ago or so. It really did make good changes to the game that there's no going back. Terraforming Mars, Preludes. It's the only expansion I have for Terraforming Mars, but with the change that it made, it's in the box, and that's how I'm going to play the game.
Right.
So, yeah, there are some that really add significant good things to a game.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Number 2 with expansions. Number 2 can round out the game by adding something that the base game was missing. So maybe it wasn't exciting enough, or maybe it wasn't, maybe there wasn't enough combat. Maybe there wasn't enough cards. Maybe there wasn't enough pieces. Maybe there wasn't enough options for the players. It can add those extra things in that maybe the base game is missing. And I go back to Terraforming Mars. When I played the base game, just seemed like to me there was something missing to it. It just didn't seem complete. It needed something else to kind of bump it up for me. And with the expansions, it did that. So
for me, because we played it, we had fun playing it, Role Player cooled not long after that for me so much. I haven't picked it up in over a year. I played it a couple of more times, and it just cooled off so quickly after the initial, oh, new game, roll dice, do things. And I can't say what it needed, but for me, it needed something else. It needed more than just the dice placement and the finding locations and obstacles and everything. I don't know what it's missing, but like in the case of Terraforming Mars, once you started playing with expansions, you saw what was missing. You got what was missing. I don't know for me what's missing from Role Player, but it's missing something. It's missing. It was a fun enough game when you and I played that there is definitely something there. Just don't know what's missing. So there, and I never, because of that, I never went to the point of getting the second and third expansions that came out for it, because it really cooled, and I was like, it's just sitting on the shelf right now. So I don't know.
Maybe it needs something. Maybe it needs one of those. I mean, you got the
I got Monsters and Minions.
Monsters and Minions, and
yeah,
then did you get the Fiends and Familiars?
No, I didn't get the second one. No.
Okay.
No. Yeah. Maybe it'll be something else that I can even figure out on my own, because like Stone Age, I figured out a couple of things to really house rule the game and make a good game even better. Didn't realize that it was missing something. It's been a while since I played. I couldn't tell you right off the top of my head. And there's a couple of other games like that.
Here's a great example. Andre Ford says another good example of an older game, Elder Sign. The expansions really improved the base game. So that is leads into another great point, is that Elder Sign, when it first came out, great game, great mechanics. Everyone enjoyed it. They just thought the game was kind of simple. It wasn't very difficult. It was kind of just, it wasn't very hard. It was meant to be kind of a simple new game for people.
It was samey.
It was kind of samey, and it was kind of just kind of easy, and it didn't feel like Arkham Horror, because there wasn't that constant threat that, oh, we're going to lose in any minute.
Yeah.
Well, the expansions came out, and it ramped up the difficulty, and now it feels like a game where you're in the Arkham Horror universe, where at any moment you're gonna die.
Watching you play, man, on any turn, you are ready to just you're ready. You're ready for it. You know it's going to happen, and then somehow you drag your butt out of it.
Right.
Yeah, so something that makes
expansions. Without the expansions, I mean,
it doesn't have that sense of urgency.
It's a completely different game. When you add in the expansions, and they changed a few of the mechanics on how things work, and they ramped up the difficulty, all of a sudden you feel like this game is now, ooh, boy, I have to think about this. I can't just, in the base game, you can just do whatever, because, there's no pressure.
There's
now
no risk.
It's like, ooh. You have to go there, and you have to complete this, because if you don't, we're all going to die.
And that's the true improvement of a game. Not so much that someone saw a shortcoming in the game, but that someone saw the shortcoming in their game and knew exactly how to fix it.
Right.
Right. And to where it wasn't a waste of money. It was, wow, okay, cool.
Right. Another good for expansions. I know you have mentioned this a little bit ago, but expansion can add a fifth or a sixth player to it, or a solo mode. So it can add player count to the game, or it can also add a solo mode to the game. And a lot of games don't release with expansions, or don't release with solo modes, or fifth player or sixth player or seventh player expansions, and then the game becomes popular, and they release an expansion. So, oh, hey, you want to play with 6 people? Sure, we'll give you enough.
This is the reason why I haven't purchased Hadrian's Wall yet. Hadrian's Wall, the Roman wall in England. It's a 2 to 4 or 2 to 5 player count. I'm not sure which high end, but it's somewhere in that ballpark. Never came solo. The only reason I haven't gotten it yet is that I've got to spend another $35 or $40 to play it solo. And that is something that it looks like a good enough game. If you could play it solo right out the box, man, I'd jump right on it. I would. I'd jump right on it. I wish they had made it that way from the word jump. So I mean, that a game that provides that's a pro.
Yeah.
Or has provided or provides it later with an expansion like Hadrian's Wall. I guess we get back around to what we're talking about. They provided it later with an expansion, and that would be a reason
I think they were like, hey, a lot of people said, hey, this is a really cool game, but this would play great solo. And they always said, you're right. Let's add an expansion.
And here's one for you. How many of these expansions came about 3 or 4 months into the pandemic? When people couldn't get up with their players, we want to play these games, but we can't do it by ourselves. Here, let's give you a way to do it.
Right?
Yeah. That could have the advent of a lot of those solo expansions.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, solo really took off, as you mentioned, during the pandemic. It's like, I can't get together with people, so I want to play. I have to find a game that plays solo. So,
and by and large, that's what I look for.
Right.
Personally, absolutely. I do. Yeah.
Another good part is it can add more maps, or it can extend a campaign into a longer campaign, or it can add new characters so that you can play through the campaign with different characters, or it can add in a new campaign that continues the adventure that you're on. So, if you buy a game and it's an adventure game and you play through it and then you get the expansion, then you can continue those characters on and you have more to do with those characters. So that's another positive with expansions, is when they can add expansions that will continue letting you play through the game and adding more adventures, more scenarios, so you can play through
more characters
with the same characters, or
even more characters.
or different characters,
And this goes hand in hand with the expansion mo money, because in order to do this, you've got to spend the money, but you're getting content that you want, which enriches your experience. We're going back to the World War II Warfighter expansions that I got, because those are things that made the game more fun for me. Look at the heroes that you got with Marvel. That makes the game so much more fun with you, because you're able to do Spider-Man and Cap and Iron Man and all those guys, where it didn't come with the core game.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Which is, Marvel Champions is kind of the golden statue for both the positive and the negative in expansions for board gaming. So the negative is they released the base game with really kind of crappy heroes because they wanted people to buy all the expansion heroes. They could have included Hulk, Captain America, Spider-Man, and Iron Man in the base set, but they didn't. No. They included She-Hulk, which nobody ever heard of until the movie came out a couple months ago.
Not except for the die-hard comic book
heroes, because they knew we'll include all the good heroes as expansions that they'll buy. So Marvel Champions is the perfect example of all the highs and lows.
It is. They make you spend more money, but you don't have to spend all the money to get the 1, 2, or 3 that you really, really need to have, and the reason why you got the game to begin with. I mean, if there is one out there, one of my favorites when I was younger was Submariner. It'd be cool to fight with Submariner. It really would. It'd be neat to fight with Submariner. And I don't know if they have an expansion for him or not. But that's one that I would get for nostalgia's sake. A huge motivator when getting games and expansions.
Right. Yeah. Right. Nostalgia. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
I think those are all the things that I had for the good side. Did you have anything that you wanted to talk about or bring up? Or?
No, because I really don't have many expansions, and I just want to be able to keep up with you.
Okay, that's fine.
And I hope I did a good job of it.
Yes, absolutely. Cool. So those are kind of the good and the bad with expansions. There's a lot of good things they can do, and there's a lot of just crappy things that can come out of expansion. Right?
And even that, it's not so much the expansion. It's different for different games. It's different for different players. I mean, the things that we may have been bagging on a little bit, other people think is essential. It's different for everybody. It is.
Yeah, it is. It also depends on your financial situation, how much you can afford. If you got if you got a lot of extra money and you can,
I'm not getting that expansion. I'm getting a tool.
Right. So you either get a duel or you get an expansion, or if you can afford both, you get both. So I mean, it just depends on your financial situation. Depends on your philosophy. A lot of people, they buy a game, they play it a few times, and then they decide, oh, is this something I want to invest in and buy all the expansions? Yeah. And there's other idiots like me that'll go in to say, oh, if I'm buying Teotihuacan,
how much room do you have in there anyway? Huh?
How many what?
How much room do you have in there anyway?
I don't have much room left, that's for sure. Now got a new stack up on the top here, as you can see. Because there was 3 levels. Now there's a 4th level.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, it's getting pretty crowded in here. So it's.
But what a way to do it, filling it with stuff that brings you joy,
Right.
Yeah. And that's what this
whole
thing is all about. There's a lot of
positive things that can turn a game. We talked about Marvel Champions. We talked about Terraforming Mars. We talked about. We didn't actually talk. I didn't talk about it, but we talked about
Pandemic.
Dune Imperium. The first time I played Dune Imperium, I was not impressed with this game at all. And I was playing multiplayer with people. And again,
it took some warming up for me too. It took, and I didn't understand.
And they're like, "Oh, you got the prelude cards at the end," and I'm like, "I don't understand. Should I play these cards?" And it was just, and I didn't enjoy it. But that's why it took me a long time to buy it.
Because that's another thing. That game was mislabeled as a deck builder. It has deck building elements, but if you play a game like Marvel Champions, it's not a traditional deck builder in the sense of the way you think of it, where you get a hand, you go through it in that turn, you get the next one. So you go and you just keep cycling through. It has deck building elements, but it's not a deck builder. Hand management, maybe. No, not even that. Not even that. It
is
card economy.
They need to come up with a different terminology, I think.
Yeah. But deck management doesn't fit.
You're adding one, maybe if you have a lot of points, 2 cards into your deck at the end of each turn, and you're only going through 5 or 6 turns, so it's only like.
And if you're not keeping your deck size down, you'll never see those cards. The last 2 or 3 turns, don't bother spending anything on cards. You're not going to see them.
And sometimes you won't even see the cards you want, or have much of a choice. It's not like that.
There's another one that we didn't really cover with expansions, because we're talking about board games, sports games. Look. And that's about half of them. Yeah, sports games. I got like 30 seasons of Strat, 20 seasons of APA, and then I've got all the other games over there. Jeez. Don't even get me started. And then you got football.
So you got plenty of expansions then, Mr. Expansion Man.
It never even occurred to me. Yes, I do have a lot of expansions. Not board game expansions, but sports game, which it's a sports board game. I know, whatever. Yeah, I do have expansions. Hi, my name is Chris, and I'm an expansionaholic.
Well, welcome to the club, Chris. That's fine. That's absolutely fine. Like I said, it's
wow. Yeah. Yep.
And the expansions you bought, they all added to the game, right?
Nostalgia.
Right.
The guys I grew up with and the guys I heard about when I was younger, and mash them together, and Yep.
So it's
makes the game better, gives me more options. Costs a lot of money. Hey, Toady, what's up? Costs a lot of money, but yeah.
It all adds something, right?
Yes, it does. Yep.
Normally, you know, I would say, um, I guess, you know, overview for expansions. I'm going to use Terraforming Mars, and I hate to pick on Terraforming Mars because it's definitely in my top 10 games of all time.
Yeah.
So this is coming from the heart because I love this game.
Mm-hmm.
But this shows you, for me, a perfect example of expansions. And then I went out and bought Terraforming Mars, did not enjoy the base game.
Right.
I'll take that back. The base game I thought was fine. It wasn't, you know, it wasn't in the top 10 of all time. It was okay. It was fine. I just think it was missing something. Somebody suggested I buy the expansions, which I did.
Mm-hmm.
I bought the Colonies expansion. I bought the Venus expansion. I bought the Prelude expansion and the Turmoil expansion.
Mm-hmm.
So 4 expansions for the game.
Yeah.
Now, Terraforming Mars for me is in the top 10 games of all time because of the expansion.
Mm-hmm.
But with that said, if I had to redo it, I would not waste my money on Venus next because I don't think it adds enough to the game for an expansion. They should have probably taken this expansion and just put it into a different one. And
or had it in the
day.
core game, and then we wouldn't have known any difference.
Right, exactly. So it's like this kind of winds up what the good and the bad for me in expansions is that I think expansions can add to the game. I can think expansions can make a game. I think expansions can take a game that is okay and put it up in the top 10 games of all time.
Mm-hmm.
But it also, at the same time, you can get expansions for that same game that are worthless to you and you do not need whatsoever. And for whatever reason, the company that made it or whatever just put out an expansion that just doesn't resonate with you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that was the perfect thought right there. Doesn't resonate with you. Yep.
It's like you said, everyone's kind of different.
Thing.
Different situation, different outcome, different thoughts and different views. Like I said, I own more expansions than I own base games. And that's over 250 expansions or something like that. So I've got quite a few expansions because most games have 5, 6, 7 expansions. And it gets to be to the point where, like, just example, I bought this because I thought this is going to be really cool. Western Legends.
Right.
You can take different Western people and do weird,
like
crazy things with them and have fun, and you can do all this stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Little did I know when I bought Western Legends that, yes, there's like 7 or 8 expansions. And I'm like, oh, shit. Well, okay, now I've got to go and get all the expansions for it.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
If I would do it over again, I probably wouldn't get Western Legends, knowing that I'm going to have to get like 5 or 6 expansions for it because, you know, it's one of those things. I got to track down the expansions. I got to find them. I've got to pay through the nose for them. I've got to try to get them. And are they going to add enough to the game to really make a difference when what they should have done was just release the whole gosh darn thing in one box?
The way it should have been.
Let me give you an example. Let me give you another example.
Go ahead.
Look at this. What does this say, Chris? I know you can read.
Big box.
It's the big box. It's got all the expansions for the game in one box. Yes, one box.
And yes, it's Constantinople. Well,
one stinking box that you can get all of your expansions in and not have to try to track them down. And they're actually starting in the last year to start doing this, where they're releasing games with the base game and all the expansions in one thing.
Yeah, I've seen that. I prepared one more thing for this evening, IDJ, to contrast you and expansions and me and expansions. That's all the ones I own.
Okay. Pandemic on the Brink. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Architect.
Architects, the collector box. Onirim, it came packaged with all the expansions. Tiny Epic Galaxies came packaged with a Shields expansion. World War
Okay.
II, Space Empires, the one that I can't play because I don't have the first expansion. Catan 5 to 6, and then the Star Wars cards. And then, as it was brought to my attention, all the sports games that I have over here. And,
Right.
and you know how we're
But you were
talking
claiming
about.
you don't buy expansions.
Yeah,
Yes.
you go out of your way because I tracked down the 1962 Green Bay Packers original Stratomatic cards for $30
Ooh.
because I
Nice.
wanted to have the Packers, and they were the original cards, and they're in great shape. I had $30 burning a hole in my pocket. I jumped on it because it's the Packers. It's Jim Taylor. It's Ray Nitschke. It's Willie Wood. It's Herb Adderley. It's Bart Starr. It's Max McGee. It's Boyd Dowler. It's Ron Kramer. It's all those guys. I wanted it.
Awesome.
I got it. Yep.
So you got an expansion.
Mm-hmm. No, I got a bunch of them.
Hard-earned money on it.
Yeah. Thanks, Andre. Appreciate Jeffrey. Appreciate the reminder.
Here's another example of a game that was released, Terra Mystica, with all the this is a big, heavy expansion box, but we were talking about games that are now companies.
And I think that's also geared towards people who are like, well, I don't want to have to chase down all of the expansions. There's like people who have the game or have expansions aren't going to buy this, but let's make a convenient package for those people who want them.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep. I think hopefully they'll start doing that with some. I mean, most of these games are ones that have been released, a while ago because companies, I mean, let's be honest, guys that own the companies are not dumb.
Right? Oh no.
If I own, right, if I know I can sell Terra Mystica and I can sell 3 expansions for it. And then in 5 years from now, I can release a big box edition, which has everything in it again to everyone.
Yep.
That's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to just put everything in a box and sell it to everyone right off the bat.
It's not being disparaging against companies or those in charge or who are trusted with marketing and production and making money. It is a business, and it is supposed to be run with making a profit in mind.
Right.
And it's not a
matter.
We're
not saying anything negative. That's just
we're not.
It's the way business is run.
Exactly.
If they didn't make money, they wouldn't be producing games next month. So
no.
If I'm in charge of whatever company and I can make money to keep
I'm going to keep my job.
Right. And nobody's forcing anyone to buy these games.
No.
Right? No one is forcing. No one forced anyone to buy Terra Mystica. Well, I mean,
somebody will.
I did. Right. I forced you to. I admit it. I forced you to. But yes, if I could buy Terra Mystica, and then when the expansion comes out, I buy the expansion for it, and then I buy another expansion for it, and maybe somewhere along the line I miss an expansion, and then 5 years from now they release a big box edition that has everything, and I go, oh shit. It's got everything in there. I might as well. All right, it's only $100. I'll buy it. Boom.
That's not horrible.
Oh no,
that's not horrible.
No.
Yeah, because I guess they have less overhead for everything in one box, so they have less SKUs on the shelf, so they're paying less tax for having less pieces of inventory. That's not a horrible price.
No. I mean,
for all that's included.
That's for another discussion. We can get into the whole how much did a board game cost.
Yeah.
Because when you think about it, you guys don't want to know how much they're making off of these games. Like literally this game that cost $25 at the store, which is like $10 off of the actual price that they're trying to, they put on $39.99.
They were probably making about $32 on it.
And then they probably, they mark it down to $25 to make you think like you're getting a deal. And you're like, oh my God, $25, what a great deal. When it really only costs them like $4 or $5 to make this game.
And there's a subject for another discussion.
Whoa, chocolate cake.
Woo, nice. Coming up.
Chocolate cake, look at that. Oh yeah, baby.
Wow.
Nah. But you wish you had some.
I'd love to have a bite of that. Now that's another discussion. Is I totally forgot what it was going to be, so don't worry about
it. Well, that's not great. Yeah. So, anyways, good, bad, ugly about expansions. I mean, it's the way it's going to be. There's nothing we say is going to change anything. All we're doing is letting you guys know to make wise decisions on whether or not you do want to or don't want to fall into the group of I want all the expansions or I don't need any of the expansions. Yep. Maybe somewhere in the middle is where we should all be. Instead of maybe, I'm on one end and Chris is on the other end.
Yeah, we just get along, man.
We all just I guess what we're saying is just make a wise decision on what you want to do. If you want to purchase expansions or not, it's your money. You do whatever you want with it. We're not trying to advise you one way or the other. We're just saying, here's the positive. Here's the negative. Watch out for the negatives and enjoy the positives.
But I will say one thing, though, guys, come here, guys. If you decide to sell the farm to buy every expansion ever created, apparently your wife will still bring you chocolate cake.
That's it. That's right. That's how wonderful I am. That's all. E4 Airman says, my wife is awesome. I will let her know that you think she's awesome. My pockets are deep, so that helps me decide. There you go.
It helps. Yep.
It helps, right? It does help.
I do most of my bulk game buying at tax time.
Well, I mean, the other thing is, again, I am also thinking long term. As we talked about, I am now purchasing Arkham Horror expansions for $120, which used to sell for $30 to $40.
And so in 10 or 15 years, you may be the one who is.
So that's exactly what I'm thinking, right? That's so true. If I buy the expansions now, right? If I have Turmoil and I have Prelude and I got Venus Next and I have Colonies, and 20 years from now,
one of our younger subscribers would be like, I know the guy who has these games. Let me get you up with him.
Right. And somebody might say, hey, I'll buy everything from you. Like, for example, and this is not a lie, I have Panzer. I have Panzer, and I have all 4 expansions for Panzer. And I am actually going to be selling Panzer and all 4 of the expansions that go with it, which is going to fetch a much bigger price than if I was just going to sell Panzer and 1 expansion. Because now I can say to somebody, do you want Panzer? And you want all the expansion?
I've got the Panzer big box.
I got the Panzer big box. I have it all.
You
don't have to wait for GMT to reprint it in 12 years from now. You can have it all now. It's going to cost you $350. Send it my way, and then I will ship this out to you.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's how the board game industry works right now.
Yeah.
I mean, in 30, 20 years from now, it might be different, but I doubt it because there are games that were released in 1970, 1980. When you go to buy them now, they're worth 20 times what you would have bought them for then.
And just thinking 20 years from now, you can be part of the hard to find expansion problem.
Exactly. And the other thing is when you go to buy your games, buy the big, expensive, hard games to find. Like, for example, A Time for Trumpets. My copy of A Time for Trumpets is still in the shrink wrap because in 20 years from now, there won't be that many copies that are still going to be in the shrink wrap, and I'll be able to sell for twice of what I spent on it.
Mine are used. Nations for $45 and Fortress America, the old evil stepchild of Axis and Allies from 1987, maybe for $45 or $50 when I bought it. They're open. They've been used. In 20 years from now, if someone's really looking for it, they're not going to give a rat's butt.
Right.
Because how much
right.
more difficult is it going to be to get something like that? You know?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. I
It's
can be part of the problem.
as we
too.
know, it's all about supply and demand.
Yeah.
If you got something that somebody demands, the more people that demand it, the more you can get for it. That's just the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
So if you
Something's
get a really
only
popular
worth what
game,
someone is willing to pay for it. Just be willing to wait for what you want someone to pay for it.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yep.
Well, there you go, guys. That is our introductory episode of, what is it called again, Chris? I can't remember.
Inside scoop of board gaming. It's right
there
up there.
The inside scoop, right? Yes, the inside scoop of board gaming. I should know that, but seeing as though it's our first episode, that was we're testing things tonight to see how things went. If you would all leave us a big fat thumbs up, we would really, really appreciate that, because we would like to let more people come every week to the show. And the only way that they're going to know about it is if YouTube posts, hey, there's this new show that you guys should go check out.
Help us tickle the algorithm.
That's right. Tickle, tickle. If we're not tickling the algorithm, then what good are we doing? So everyone, thank you so much for coming out. Thank you, Chris, the lower, slower board gamer. If you are not a subscriber on his channel, for shame on you. For shame. So thank you for coming out and being the wonderful co-host. You did a great job, a lot of great insights. So thank you so much for coming out.
I enjoy whenever we get together and confab on the tubes here, IDJ. Thanks for inviting me, man. I really appreciate it. And everybody in the chat, thank you very much for coming out tonight. It's been awesome. It's been fun.
Yeah, absolutely. We had up to 15, 20 people viewing at one time for the debut episode. So thank you all for coming back tonight. We do appreciate it. So yeah, we do we do appreciate y'all. We appreciate your time.
Yep.
Next week, probably same time, same channel, but of course, stay tuned for more information on our ComSim World and Facebook groups. You can head over to the War Room, and don't forget, Saturday, 4:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I host the War Room with Rough Swordsman and Tony's Board Life. And we will get to talk with them Saturday and catch up with them. So everyone,
the three enablers extraordinaire.
That's right. We try our best to try and get everyone to buy every game possible. So thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Jeffrey, Andre, Thorough4, E4 Airman. Thank you, guys, for coming out tonight. We do appreciate Stigler, a good friend of the channel. Thank you so much for coming out. Mike Anthony, love you, man. I hope all is well with you.
Ron was in for a bit.
Ron, good to see you, Ron. And if I missed your name, I apologize. But anyways, thank you guys for coming out tonight. It's a lot of fun talking board gaming, and hopefully you guys enjoyed it. So if you did, leave us a thumbs up. Leave us a comment down below. If you want to see or talk, if you want to suggest any subject matter or anything and you want us to talk about it, let us know, and maybe we'll do that. Until next week, everyone, have a good week, and we'll see you next time. I'm winning
with the vote.
He's going to poke out his eye. Oh, my God.
See you guys.